33. Requests and inquiries. In connection with business in a meeting, members may wish to obtain information or to do or have something done that requires permission of the assembly. Any member can make the following types of inquiry or request. A. Parliamentary inquiry. B. For information. C. For permission or leave to withdraw or modify a motion. D. To read papers. And E. For any other privilege. Standard descriptive characteristics. With respect to the requests and inquiries growing out of the business of the assembly that are listed above, the following rules apply. 1. All take precedence over any motion with whose purpose they are connected and can also be made at any time when no question is pending. A motion on a request that is pending yields to all privileged motions and to other incidental motions. 2. All can be applied in reference to any motion or parliamentary situation out of which they arise. No subsidiary motion can be applied to any of them. 3. All are in order when another has the floor if they require immediate attention. 4. A parliamentary inquiry and a request for information do not require a second. The other requests do not require a second except when moved formally by the maker of the request. A motion to grant the request of another member does not require a second since two members already wish the question to come up, the maker of the request and the maker of the motion. 5. All are not debatable, although they may be accompanied by brief explanations as necessary. Consider 43, 31 through 32. 6. All are not amendable. 7. No vote is taken on a parliamentary inquiry and a request for information, but the others require a majority vote in order to be granted, and are frequently settled by unanimous consent. When it is too late for renewal, unanimous consent is required to grant permission to withdraw a motion to reconsider, 3710B, or to withdraw previous notice of a proposed motion requiring such notice, 1044 through 51. 8. A parliamentary inquiry and a request for information are not subject to consideration. The vote on a request for permission to modify a motion, to read papers, and for any other privilege can be reconsidered. On a request for permission to withdraw a motion, only a negative vote can be reconsidered. Further rules and explanation with forms. A. Parliamentary inquiry. A parliamentary inquiry is a question directed to the presiding officer to obtain information on a matter of parliamentary law or the rules of the organization bearing on the business at hand. It is the chair's duty to answer such questions when it may assist a member to make an appropriate motion, raise a proper point of order, or understand the parliamentary situation or the effect of a motion. The chair is not obliged to answer hypothetical questions. In making an inquiry, the inquirer arises, and without obtaining the floor, addresses the chair as follows. Member A. Madam President, I rise to a parliamentary inquiry, or a parliamentary inquiry, please. Chair. The member will state the inquiry. Member A. Is it in order at this time to move the previous question? The chair's reply to a parliamentary inquiry is not subject to an appeal, since it is an opinion, not a ruling. A member may act contrary to this opinion, however, and may appeal from a resulting adverse ruling by the chair. If an inquiry is made when another member has the floor and an immediate answer is not necessary, the chair can defer a reply until the floor has been yielded. B. Request for information. A request for information, also called a point of information, is a request directed to the chair or through the chair to another officer or member for information relevant to the business at hand but not related to parliamentary procedure. It is treated like a parliamentary inquiry as follows. Member A. Mr. President, I have a request for information, or a point of information, please. The member will state his question. Will the convention delegates report at this meeting? Or, this motion calls for a large expenditure. Will the treasurer state the present balance? If information is desired of a member who is speaking, the inquirer upon rising may use the following form instead. Madam President, will the member yield for a question? Or, Mr. President, I would like to ask the gentleman, or the member, a question. If the speaker consents to the interruption, the time consumed will be taken out of his allowed time. The chair therefore asks if the speaker is willing to be interrupted, and if he consents, directs the inquirer to proceed. Although the presiding officer generally remains silent during the ensuing exchange, the inquiry, the reply, and any resulting colloquy are made in the third person through the chair. To protect decorum, members are not allowed to carry on discussion directly with one another. An inquiry of this kind may also be for the purpose of reminding a speaker of a point to be made in argument, or it may be intended to rebut his position, but it must always be put in the form of a question. C. Request for permission or leave to withdraw or modify a motion. Conditions for withdrawing or modifying a motion depend upon how soon the mover states his wish to withdraw or modify it. Permission for him to do so is required only after the motion to which it pertains has been stated by the chair is pending. Before a motion has been stated by the chair, it is the property of its mover, who can withdraw or modify it without asking the consent of anyone. Thus, in the brief interval between the making of a motion and the time when the chair places it before the assembly by stating it, the maker can withdraw it as follows. Member A, who made the motion. Madam President, I withdraw the motion. Or, Mr. President, I wish to modify the motion by striking out demand and inserting urge. In the same interval also, another member can ask if the maker of the motion is willing to withdraw or accept a change in it, which suggestion the maker can either accept or reject. In such a case, the chair either announces the motion has been withdrawn or states the question on the modified motion. If a motion is modified, the seconder can withdraw his second, When the seconder withdraws his second to the modified motion, the member who suggested the modification has in effect supplied a second. After a motion has been stated by the chair, it belongs to the meeting as a whole, and the maker must request the Assembly's permission to withdraw or modify his own motion, according to the rules stated in Standard Characteristics 1 through 8 above. In such cases, the procedure is as follows. To withdraw a motion that is before the Assembly, the member who made it may use this form. Member A, who made the motion. Madam President, I ask permission or leave to withdraw this motion. The chair treats this first as a unanimous consent request. That is, if no one objects, the announcement is, unless there is objection, the motion is withdrawn. If there is an objection, the chair of his own accord can put the question on granting the request, or any member can move that permission to withdraw the motion be granted. If a member other than the one making the request made the motion, it does not require a second, since the maker of the motion did grant permission and the maker of the request surely both favor it. A request for permission to withdraw a motion or a motion to grant such permission can be made at any time before voting on the question has begun, even though the motion has been amended, and even though subsidiary or incidental motions may be pending. Any such motions that adhere to the main motion cease to be before the Assembly and require no further disposition if the main motion is withdrawn. Any member can suggest that the maker of a motion has permission to withdraw it, which the maker can do or decline to do as he chooses. After a question has been divided, one or more of the parts can be withdrawn without affecting the other parts. A motion to reconsider, Chapter 37, or a previous notice of a proposed motion requiring notice, 1044-51, cannot be withdrawn after it is too late for renewal unless unanimous consent is given. After a motion has been withdrawn, the situation is as though it had never been made. Therefore, the same motion can be made again at the next meeting. To modify a motion after it has been said by the chair, the maker has permission to do so, as in the case of withdrawal of a motion. If there is no objection, the chair states the question on the modified motion. Sorry. If anyone objects, the chair must then determine whether an amendment equivalent to the requested modification would be in order. If not, the modification may not be made unless the motion to suspend the rules has been adopted. If a motion for such an amendment is in order, the chair can assume it, or any member can move it formally. That amendment requires a second if moved by the member who originally made the request. The rules governing consideration of amendments are followed. See Chapter 12. A pending motion can be amended only by vote or unanimous consent of the Assembly, even if the maker of the motion states that he accepts the amendment. See also Treatment of Friendly Amendments, 1291. D. Request to read papers. If any member objects, a member has no right to read from or to have the secretary read from any paper or book as a part of his speech without permission of the Assembly. This rule is a protection against the use of reading as a means of prolonged debate and delaying business. It is customary, however, to permit members to read short, pertinent printed extracts in debate so long as they do not abuse the privilege. If a member wishes to do so, he can, while speaking in debate, say, "If there is no objection, I would like to read," and then indicating the nature and length of the paper. This member can then begin to read unless another member objects. Note: the procedure of presuming permission to read until objection is raised is applicable only in debate on a pending question. Back to reading. In such a case, at any time until the speaker has finished reading, another member can interrupt him by an objection, which must be addressed to the chair. Or, if the speaker desiring to read prefers, he can formally request permission. "Mr. President, I ask permission to read a statement," and then briefly describing it as above. And the chair then asks if there is objection. In either case, if there is an objection, the chair can, of his own accord, put the question on granting permission, or any member can move that permission to read a paper in debate be granted. This motion requires no second unless moved by the member who made the request. Action of the Assembly granting a request to read a paper can be reconsidered at any time until the reading has been concluded. The foregoing paragraph applies only to papers or documents that are not before the Assembly for action. When any paper is laid before the Assembly for action, it is the right of every member that it be read once, and, if there is any debate or amendment, that it be read again before members are asked to vote on it. Except as just stated, no member has the right to have anything read without permission of the Assembly. But whenever any member requests that a document that is before the Assembly be read, obviously for information and not for delay, and no one objects, the chair normally should direct that it be read. If there is an objection, a majority vote is required to order that it be read. If a member was absent from the hall when the paper under consideration was read, even though absent on duty, he cannot insist on it being read again. In this case, the convenience of the Assembly is more important than that of a single member. E. Request for any other privilege. When a member desires to make a request not covered by one of the four types explained above, as for example a request to address remarks or make a presentation while no motion is pending, he rises, addresses the chair, and, as soon as he catches the presiding officer's attention, states his request. Although he does not have to wait for recognition and can make his request even though another member has been assigned the floor, he should never interrupt a member speaking unless sure that urgency justifies it. Generally, such matters are settled by unanimous consent or informally, but if there is an objection, a motion can be made to grant the request. If explanation is required, it can be requested or given, but this must not extend into debate. These requests should be treated so as to interrupt the proceedings as little as is consistent with the demands of justice.